this thing is gonna rip. That was like 5 PSI of boost. Woo! Good evening. We're back on the Marauder, and actually just finished filming the last video where we started this thing with its brand new 2.5-inch stainless, fully custom exhaust. And it is already late. You can see it's dark out. It's gotta be 10:30 at night right now, and Dyno Day is tomorrow, Friday. So I've got no time. I'd love to be watching the first night of football right now, which I kinda am, but we got a dyno appointment tomorrow, and there's still a few things on the list that I'd like to do before we, cannonball this thing down there and hopefully make good power in the dyno. So getting right to work, here is my Marauder final to-do list. The exhaust we just crossed off. The next big item is a Kenny Bell booster pump. You guys who've had these cars or Cobras are probably familiar with them. As the name implies, it's an electronics device that's going to boost your fuel pump's capability. I think they're common in the MUCAR world as well, probably just everywhere in the aftermarket world. We did the AM 340 pump in the last video. This is gonna be some extra insurance for me to hopefully make sure that we have enough fuel to feed our Eaton supercharged 4.6 liter forged modular V8 here. So that's the big ticket item, I think. I got some little bit of wiring to clean up. I want to double check the fluids, especially the transmission fluid. Maybe put a hood on it if we have time. We got to drive it, put some fresh 93 in it. And then these valve cover breathers. Got to get a couple of these on. Actually put one of them on over here already. Just one of these things. Lets the valve cover vent to atmosphere. Might do a catch can. I haven't really decided yet, but for like $6 on Amazon, these are always a good option to, an example like this, get you to the dyno tomorrow. All right, let's get to work. All right, good morning. It is a cloudy dyno day. Finally got some rain last night, which we probably desperately needed. Last night I finished filming the exhaust video, took it for a drive this morning. You guys saw that in the last video. Was gonna finish wiring the booster pump last night, but I don't like to change multiple things at once. It's bitten me in the past, so I didn't want to change the fuel pump and the booster pump and then find out that we had, for example, a fuel pressure issue. And then there's 2 variables that you change. So last night decided to call it with getting the booster pump mounted, getting a ground wire on there, and right now it's just temporarily stuck to the 6-disc changer with some double-sided tape until I figure out a good spot for it. The goal for this morning and last night was to get the car as ready as we can for the dyno, but not make changes that are irreversible, like, looming wiring and making wiring look clean, because if I have to undo it on the dyno or change something or change orientation, it's only gonna cost me time later. I wanna make it, as good as I can and safe, but also like if I need to remove the booster pump for whatever reason on the dyno, which I had to do with the Blue Cobra at one point, I don't wanna be ripping off electrical tape and wiring and all this other stuff. So I wanna find something that works and a process that works. And then if it works well in the dyno and we get it back here in the garage, then we can do the old Chris Sullivan special, loom everything, make everything look really clean and more permanent. So bear with me in the trunk. It's a disaster right now. But yeah, the booster pump wires into this side of the fuel pump shutoff, and then down here to the fuel pump driver module. And then this particular one came with a Hobbs switch, which is actually up on the workbench right now. But I don't know if we're gonna use that or not. I'm gonna ask my tuner, but if we need to, I'm going to tee it right in, probably right here would be the easiest spot. Probably run the wire, down around the mirror and over here just for the dyno session. And this is the Hobbs switch. If you guys don't know what these are, it's basically just a really simple pressure switch. I've got one in my twin turbo C6 Z06 because that thing has a full return fuel system with dual Hellcat 465s or Walboro 465s. And the idea behind this is in any fuel system, you don't want both pumps running at full duty cycle all the time. All you're doing is unnecessarily heating the fuel, and 99.9% of it is going right back to the tank. So basically what this does is once the car sees boost, so 3 PSI, it closes the contacts in here, which sends power to the second pump, and then you have all your fuel. So driving around town, idling, sitting in traffic, you know, most normal driving, just running one pump. This car only has one pump, but the idea is similar, that when the Hobbs switch triggers, you are now activating the Kenny Bell booster pump, which is increasing voltage to the single fuel pump in the tank there. Of course, the idea for both of them is you're just not unnecessarily moving fuel and putting increased strain on your pump and your wires and all that stuff. So we may end up using this, I'm not really sure. I'm honestly not terribly familiar with these booster pump setups. So it's ready to go, it's wired, but I'm gonna ask the tuner what he wants to do, and then this should be fairly easy install if we have to. So right now, I think we're done. We drove this thing this morning, it drives good, it stays cool, no leaks, sounds good. I think we need to get some fresh 93 octane in this thing and then load it up on the trailer and do any other last minute prep items we need to do to get to the dyno. So let's get some fresh fuel in this thing and hopefully see you guys on the road. Well, unfortunately, guys, if it's not already obvious, the dyno did not go exactly as planned. And as usual, I apologize for not filming a ton and or not really describing what was happening in the moment, but if you guys have ever been to the dyno or been stressed the night before a dyno trying to get the car ready, you probably understand where I'm coming from. I was doing everything I could just to make the dyno happen, and so filming kind of became secondary or took a back seat. But to bring you up to speed, we brought the car down to the tuner. Mike, my buddy Dan, was coming up for the weekend anyway, so he tagged along, kind of helped me out. Got the car unloaded, got Mike working his magic on the keyboard, everything was looking good. He discovered that there was no map sensor reading, and it kind of clicked in my head, you idiot, you set up the IAT sensor, but not the map sensor. So for anyone that doesn't know, MAP stands for manifold absolute pressure, and it basically measures the pressure in the intake manifold, and that is really important on almost any car, but especially a boosted car, because it needs to tell the computer how much vacuum or boost is in the manifold. And that sensor is right here, right at the back of the Eaton supercharger that we, a couple episodes ago, plugged in or wired in to the Marauder style MAF. We got the IAT sensor. So that's a 4-wire sensor. 2 of those we wired in the IAT or intake air temp sensor from the mass airflow over to the MAP/IAT 0304 Cobra sensor right here. And then these 2 wires were just kind of pinned back. I didn't think I needed them, and I guess I wasn't really thinking about the MAP part of this equation. So once Mike said I'm not getting a reading on the map sensor, I said, okay, well, that's probably because I didn't do it. So I quickly scrambled for the Marauder wiring diagram to figure out where the factory Marauder map sensor was. Turns out it's in the EGR plug. Figured out which 2 wires I need to plumb into, got them hooked up to the correct 2 wires on the MAP/IAT sensor for the Cobra. Said, hey, do you have a reading now? Hacked up a random harness he had, so thanks to Mike for letting me borrow some wire. And boom, even though it's ugly, we got a map sensor reading and we're able to continue on with the process. So after another hour or so of, kind of fine-tuning just the base tune, Mike was ready to pull the car on the dyno. We got the car up on the rollers, and the tuner said something that no one wants to hear when they've got a brand new motor and a brand new oil pressure gauge. He says, does this oil pressure gauge work? And I go, it sure does. What's the problem? And he said, it's reading about 10 PSI. So at that point, we kind of stopped everything and said, all right, what's going on? What weight oil is in it? How does the oil look? Of course, I ran the BR, or Driven Racing break-in oil. I think I went with a 30 weight. It looks totally clean on the dipstick. The level is where it should be. There's no obvious leaks or anything, so we should have good. The motor sounds incredible. It sounds like a sewing machine. There shouldn't be any oil pressure issues. If you guys have seen the episodes, I've had a mechanical gauge on it. It's got like 80 plus PSI at cold start and around 25 at idle, at hot idle, 20 to 25. So that was kind of a bummer. So down here at the oil filter housing, this little brass plug here, the tuner had a mechanical gauge. So we plugged that in, and at hot idle, just sitting there idling on the dyno, we had between 18 and 20 PSI. The gauge was reading about 14 or so. So it wasn't quite 10, and the mechanical gauge was reading a little bit higher than the gauge in the car. But either way, at the time, it kind of sounded low, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not thinking about this more, because I looked into this with the blue Cobra that this motor originally came out of. But either way, the oil pressure seemed low, so at that point, it was getting kind of late. It's Friday afternoon. I don't want to keep the tuner late. At that point, I had been straight out for 36 hours. I just said, all right, let's put a stop to this. The tune is a little bit better now. I'm gonna take this home. I'm gonna go through it 100%, make sure that it's 100% good. I'll drop the oil, check the filter, all that good stuff. And I'll come back when I'm a little more confident. I'm just wiped at this point. So Dan and I went and got some dinner. While I'm waiting for the dinner to come out, I was looking around on the internet and found the Ford spec for the 2-valve and 4-valve modular V8s. And the Ford spec is 20 to 45 or 20 to 40, I think, PSI at 1500 RPM. And this motor was making just under 20 at like an 800 RPM idle. So I think that we're well within that spec, even with the 30 weight oil that I put in this thing. And I plan to run 40 weight. So bottom line is, even though on the dyno, I think it was a little bit scary seeing, you know, a low oil pressure condition. And as a tuner, I would have done the exact same thing. On the gauge, it really did look bad. The gauge is basically all the way down on the other end. But if you know these modular motors and the oil pressure that they make at hot idle, I really don't think there's anything out of spec here. But either way, I want to be safe. I want to drop the oil. We're not quite ready to run synthetic yet, so I'm going to just run some Brotella. This is T4, so this is the non-synthetic stuff. So this is basically going to help us continue the break-in process. I got a couple more Wix filters off Rock Auto. So we can dump this break-in oil, this driven specific break-in oil, see what it looks like, maybe open up the filter, make sure that everything is good just as we suspect that it is, and then we can keep putting miles on this thing. So let's dump the oil, take a look at it, give the underside a once-over, make sure there's no other leaks. And then hopefully we can get this thing back on the road and continue putting miles on it and gaining confidence in this motor. Get ready for hopefully the next dyno appointment. Looks brand new. This is the best looking oil I've seen come out of a brand new motor. That oil could pass for brand new. Now I kind of wish I left it in there. The BR20 break-in oil is like 12 bucks a quart. Oh well. Happy to see that it looks great. Never-ending wiring on this drop-in motor. Chugging away, making progress on the Marauder here. We started with an oil change. Huge relief. The oil that came out literally looked brand new. No chunks, no glitter, no nothing like that. It literally looked like brand new oil, which, you know, pretty much was. Has low mileage on it and only a few heat cycles. But typically, if there's going to be a problem with your new motor, you would have seen it in that first oil change. Saw a lot of material, a lot of metal, and we saw none of that, which I didn't expect to see, but you know, the nerves on the dyno just got me going a little bit. But got a brand new Wix filter on there, got 6.5 quarts of Brotella. Shirt on the website, if you guys want to check it out, sullivan-co.com, support the channel, get you a sick, high quality t-shirt. Check it out. Anyways, oil is fresh, back in there. I've got an oil filter wrench coming this afternoon. It's a tool I probably should have bought by now, but I did want to show this to you guys. I already did this once, but this is the oil that came out of the filter, or that's in the filter, obviously, on a clean stainless steel bench. I mean, that could pass for brand new motor oil. You know? I feel like I did a similar thing with the Cobra with this motor originally, and it was far, far worse. I'll see if I can put in that B-roll footage now, but There's nothing in there. There's nothing in there. Then over here, here's the drain pan. The oil looks dark, but it's because it's in a black drain pan. I can assure you this is the same oil. You know, there's nothing in there. Again, I mean, there's a little bit of, you know, just the typical stuff that you would see with a new motor. But other than that, I mean, there's literally no glitter or anything. Just the, you know, assembly lube and some of the finer, you know, as the rings meet the cylinder walls or mate to the cylinder walls, you would expect to see this stuff. But if I dump this oil out, it looks just like that. So I don't think we have any bearing problems, any real mechanical problems at all with this motor. My plan right now is to drive it as many miles as I can, make sure that our oil pressure stays consistent, and I expect that it will. But the only way to find out will be to keep driving it, and that's what I'm working on right now, is making this thing more drivable. First up, as I showed in the B-roll, I found a coolant leak. I found a splash of puddle right in the middle. Did a little bit of digging, found the coolant was leaking down the back of the transmission. That was caused by this heater hose right here, which I don't know if this clamp was just not doing the job anymore or the hose is stretched or what, but I've added a secondary hose clamp there. Before, you could just kind of slide it on and off, even with the clamp on. So that was obviously problematic. I've added the hose clamp here now, and it's much more solid. The other issue I was dealing with was a battery drain. I had a parasitic draw. I went to go get this car off the trailer. The battery was stone dead, completely dead. And it's not the first time it's done that either. So I knew I had a battery drain. The way that you guys can find a parasitic battery drain is to take your multimeter, put it on amps or current, and put the terminals between, or the probes between your negative battery cable and your negative battery post. You should see a reading that's basically 0 if you don't have a draw. If you do have a draw, you will see something above, I don't know, 100 milliamps. I saw like 4 amps, which is crazy. So I started doing what you normally do, which is start pulling fuses to see which circuit is causing the draw. And then I said, you know what, let's just take a step back and think about things that we've changed, because this car didn't have this draw when I first set up this battery. So the first thing I did was take apart this wiring that I put together to turn off the battery light. Didn't change the reading at all in the meter. Then I just unplugged the 3-wire plug on the alternator, and the meter immediately dropped to 0. So our draw was on the alternator. And I've got an extra alternator plug here to show you for demonstration. This white wire just hooks right back up to the alternator or stator. This green wire is the one that was problematic. This is what signals the alternator to start charging. And I had this one hooked up direct to the battery. So it's basically a constant 12-volt source. And I'm not an alternator expert or know really how it works, but I think that was basically causing the draw. So what I did was took this wire and switched it to a switched 12-volt source, which I once again tapped into the EGR plug. So I used my test light, found which pin on that EGR plug was switched 12-volt power, and then ran a wire down to the alternator. So that should take care of our parasitic draw there, and now the alternator will only be signaled to charge when the key is on. Other than that, just cleaning up some of this other wiring, including this stuff that turns off the battery light, looming some other stuff, just really getting everything clean and making sure we're good to keep driving this thing, to really start putting some more miles on it. Also trying to clean up around the garage a little bit. I have all these extra fasteners and stuff from the various SVT and modular Ford projects I've had over the last year, the Lightning, the Cobra, and now this Marauder. And a buddy who's building a Cobra was like, hey, do you have 4 water pump bolts? And I was like, yeah. And I took them out of the bag and they look kind of dingy. So what I'm doing is cleaning up a lot of my hardware using my new Vivor ultrasonic cleaner. This thing, I wish I bought this thing years ago. Just this stuff was covered in grime and dirt, and now it basically looks like a brand new OEM fastener. Look at this tensioner. This thing was covered in oil. You can see a part number on it now. So if you guys are in the garage like me and are tired of scrubbing parts, just get yourself one of these, hit go, and then walk away. Take your parts out, wipe them off, and they're clean. Look at all the dirty stuff that came off these random bolts. So link will be in the description for the ultrasonic cleaner from Vivor. If you guys want one, check out the description. Get you one. All right, let's keep going on this. Got a couple more things I want to do, on my random list of checks and stuff. Make this thing as drivable as we can, and then let's put some more miles on it. almost 90 PSI at cold start. See what the gauge inside reads. What is that? Halfway between 75 and 100, so that's 87-ish. Oh, it looks pretty close. I did tighten the sender. The wire off the oil pressure sender was loose, so I tightened that. Also, I just shimmed up the motor mount a little bit with these plastic shims that I had from installing my lift, so I might have something coming for those, but I just want to make it drivable. Battery light is off. We are charging. So my wiring fix worked. So I think we are finally good to clean up this wiring once and for all. Alright, at this point, I think I'm going to take this thing down off the lift, double check the leaks, double check the oil level, and we're just going to start hammering miles on it. No bumper, nothing. Just check what the oil pressure is hot and make sure that it stays there after a bunch of miles, and I'll check in with you guys. ABS light came on at the dyno. I'm wondering if it's because the wheel speed sensors are full of rust. We'll have to scan that and see, but we'll get there. Let's take this boat for a rip. Nice night for a cruise. Well, it's a beautiful evening for a cruise. Feeling like fall. All right, biggest dip in the road right here. Oh, the Marauder Panther chassis just eats it up. And it's dark in here. Hey-o. Where are your friends at? Oh, he's right there. There's always one more. And this area here is like conservation. You guys can't see me at all, but you gotta watch out for deer. Thankfully the brakes stopped this 4,200 pound boat. Anyways, it is getting dark. The trip says 8.5 miles. I probably had 10 on it before this, before I reset it, so we'll call it 18 miles on this car. I'm just gonna start driving it. Start hammering some miles on this thing. See what it's doing. Right now we are basically pegging the gauge driving oil pressure wise, like maybe not pegging it, but like 75 pounds, at least 75 pounds driving around. So I think we're in good shape, but I'm gonna put some miles on it, see what else shakes loose. So I got some more parts coming for this thing. I'll keep you guys posted on that, and keep chipping away. You know, I was just thinking this hood liner looks kind of ratty and might want to add it to the parts list. And then I was like, huh, that one looks new. Whoops. That looks like a supercharger belt. Huh, I wonder if this was pressed up better, if it would clear, or if we're just gonna have to get rid of this altogether. Well, if we got OEM Ford parts, you know I got them from Mike over at wallsfordparts.com. Best deals on any OEM Ford parts guaranteed, and use code CHRIS25 for 25% off shipping. I've said it once and I'll say it again, Mike has been so helpful in finding parts for this hard to find parts vehicle. Does that make sense? It's hard to find parts for this thing, but it turns out the OEM motor mounts are still available. When I first put motor mounts in this car, they were just the cheapest ones I could find on Rock Auto, which might have been fine for a stock Crown Victoria, but for a 600 horsepower Marauder, maybe I should have spent a little more money. The motor was kind of rocking a lot during the dyno, going in and out of gear, and also we have the header clearance issue, so I'm hoping that these original Motorcraft motor mounts will help sort that out. Also got a couple transmission items, the inspection plate or dust cover, and then the little plug that goes on the bottom, so we'll get those in as well. And then I also got these go on the front bumper. These are like your air dams, left and right. Mine, original ones that came with the car, are completely cut up, probably from the original intercooler. We'll see if we have to do any trimming on these, but we want to make sure we're getting as much airflow as possible, not only to the radiator, but to the intercooler as well. I think we're going to have to wait until the front bumper goes on for these, but happy to have some quality OEM parts. Link will be in the description for Walls Ford Parts. Check them out if you guys need Motorcraft stuff. So I'd like to get all this stuff installed, but honestly, I don't know why they picked like 60s Ford blue for these motor mounts. I think I'm going to just hit them with some matte black, whatever's in the cabinet over there, and then we can install them. Hopefully it's not too painful in the car with long tube headers. It's probably going to be, but let's find out. Now I've done it. You know, they say the last 10% of a project is the hardest and the longest part to finish, and that definitely applies to this project here. All the fiddly little wiring and cleaning up vacuum hoses and stuff, a whole bunch of stuff that I haven't filmed. For example, this evap canister thing module, I had to make a new line here. Just a bunch of stuff like that just takes a while, but this is basically how this engine is going to look. We'll see if I end up painting anything else, but got the rad cover, or the radiator support cover that's been in the trunk of the car since I bought it on. Took that K&N sticker off, gave it a quick clean. Finally got the wiper cowl back on. That thing's been off since we stabbed this motor in. Wipers are back on, wiper washer areas hooked back up. Your boy even got the dang washer fluid tank wrestled in there and filled up with fresh washer fluid. OEM, baby. This thing is looking factory plus, or OEM plus. I gotta get that on a t-shirt. Looks like it could have come this way right from Mercury or right from Ford. Those motor mounts, man. I was able to do them in the car. Driver's side, 15-20 minutes. Jacked the motor up, kind of wiggled it out of there, undid the steering shaft, got the new Ford one in there. You could easily tell that the Ford rubber was a lot stiffer. Man, the passenger side just fought me. It's tight over there. If I'd just done this to begin with and not been cheap, we wouldn't have wasted 2 hours last night. But the new motor mounts are in, and we solved 3 things. 1, we've got plenty of clearance from the steering shaft now. God, you can see it from here. Perfect clearance over there. 2, the passenger side clearance on the header to the frame rail used to be, you guys aren't gonna be able to see it from down there, but I showed it in the B-roll, used to be super tight. Now we got plenty of room there, so it seems like the whole motor is sitting farther up. And 3, because of the stiffer material, this motor shouldn't move as much when we, gas it, which means it's less likely to hit stuff and mess up stuff under here. More rigid drivetrain, should be good. Should have gone with an OEM Ford part from the beginning. Thanks again to Mike at Walls Ford Parts. Probably should have hit him up from the get-go. Also got the 4R75W plugs in and the dust shield cover and all that. So this thing is really, really coming together. Started wondering if I needed to replace the hood blanket because it's not perfect. I noticed this guy right here, so it looks like the Eaton pulley does not clear this hood blanket. Now I'm thinking back to my Cobra days that maybe we take the hood blanket off anyways so we can hear more dolphin noises from this Eaton here. And now I'm wondering, the factories are too cheap to paint the whole underside of the hood, so maybe we, if and when we respray this front bumper, we give this a quick shot of UA black and make it look more show ready. One of the last things that I'd like to try and get some direction on how I'm going to fix it is actually inside, so let me show you. This is my new MUCAR 892BT Bluetooth OBD2 multi-directional scanner. I know that's a mouthful, but you guys know what this is. But what I like about it is, look at this. No cord. I'm communicating with the vehicle via the magnetic OBD2 adapter that goes on the back of this thing. And we can be anywhere around the vehicle and do any of your typical OBD2 stuff. But not only that, it's got the functionality to check your ABS modules, your door modules, your stereo modules, all that stuff. And what we're interested in is the fault code. At the dyno, we noticed that the ABS and traction control and stuff like all those lights are on. So I figured, okay, maybe after sitting for 7 years, you hit the brakes, the rust fills up like a wheel speed sensor, and we got an issue there. But I came home, used my new scanner here, pulled the codes, and look what we got. C1805, mismatch powertrain control module and or ABS module. What does that mean? It's the original ABS module, original PCM. Haven't seen this before, so I don't know. But if you guys are looking for a multi-directional scanner, meaning we can send, we could send the ABS a command to fire off. I've checked wheel speed sensors. We can reset modules, things like that. Definitely check out the MUCAR 892BT. I think this is going to be my new go-to. Link will be in the description. Try and clear the codes, but it says fault codes cleared, but still present. Please check. So I don't know. Is this something to do with the tune? We tuned out traction control. Is it? Some guys say it's because there's 2 different size tires on the rear and the front, but then again, there's no wheel speed sensor issues. I don't know. I got to investigate a little bit more. But if you guys have seen this issue, especially on the Panther platform before, let me know. Could use a little help. sounds like a stock car. You guys are right. So much for being a grandpa car with these mufflers. Just out here, varying the RPM, varying engine load, working on these rings. Sounds so good though. Ford spec is 20 to 40 psi at 1500 RPM, and we're at like 37, 38. Maybe it's 45 psi is the spec, I don't remember, but we're right there, man. It rises with RPM. Sounds vicious. Motor sounds butter smooth. I don't know. Seems good to me. Just got pulled over, by the way. Well, not really pulled over. Police chief is my neighbor, and he saw what appeared to be a Crown Vic going down the road with no front bumper and no license plate on it. He was chill though. He basically said, "What the heck are you doing? Go home." So fair enough. So let's go home. Don't mind me, just heading to bingo. That does sound pretty good right now. I don't even remember how to play bingo. This thing is gonna rip. That was like 5 psi of boost. Well, we are at 35 miles on the trip, plus figure I had about 10 on it before I started that. We're almost 50 miles on this car, on this motor. I think I would drive this thing anywhere right now. Comfortably, I might add. This thing is a couch on wheels. It's a shame, you know, we pulled it off the dyno, but I still think I made the right choice. I'm glad I checked it out. I'm glad I changed the oil, got a new filter on there, and didn't rush anything when I wasn't really sure. Again, if I was the tuner, I think I would have done the same thing. You know, you see it on the gauge that, by the way, I can't remember if I mentioned this, the sending unit wire was loose, so it might have been reading a little bit low for that, but basically at hot idle, 650, 700 RPMs, we have 18 psi of oil pressure, and at 1500 RPM, we're actually on the upper end of the Ford spec for the modular 4.6. I was driving my C6 Z06 the other day, which makes like 50 or 40 pounds of oil pressure at hot idle. It's just weird going from an LS that makes higher oil pressure to one of these modular V8s. They just don't make as much oil pressure, but seeing that on a gauge that goes to 100, it looks very low. So was concerning on the dyno, but every mile that I drive this thing now, and after seeing how the oil looked and how the filter looked, which is basically perfect, and the fact that I've put 40 miles on this thing and the oil pressure has not changed, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Solved a whole host of other issues and little nitpicky things on this car in this video, and now it's basically, as far as I'm concerned, mechanically ready for the dyno and to be driven, to keep putting miles on it, keep breaking in this motor. So we'll see if the tuner can squeak me in maybe in the next few days. If not, then we'll move on to cosmetics. God knows there's plenty of those to do. So thank you guys as always for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. The best way to support the channel is to buy some merch. That's at sullivan-co.com. I'll catch you in the next one.